Hello everyone, my name is Zimi Capo Rodriguez, registered dietitian, sports dietitian specialist here with U of R Fitness Science. And today we're going to talk a little bit about eating patterns. And if you're here, that means you are coming from an injury or a rehab process. And we're going to learn a little bit about how nutrition impacts your healing process. So let's talk a little bit about what is nutrition, what does nutrition represent, and how it does impact your recovery. It's oftentimes overlooked by many facilities and many places, and is sort of the last thing in an athlete's mind when it comes to their recovery. So again, it's important to avoid restricting calories, especially during an injury where an athlete is not, exercising as much, not moving around. It's very common for an athlete to think about, okay, I'm going to stop eating so I don't, gain weight. For on the other side, the body energy demands increases with your injury, because your body is in rehab mode, is recovering. So believe it or not, it increases by 10 to 50% depending on the injury. If you have a big wound or if you're immobile. So again, it's also important to consider ambulation with, let's say, crutches or on a wheelchair where you're constantly moving around. Your energy demand increases a bit. So again, it's not all about, eating less and avoid certain foods. It's about achieving an energy balance. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, what that means. So there's a couple stages here in the healing process and recovery. The first stage is basically when your body is going through a very inflammatory process. It's when your inflammation is at most in your body. And it's when you are having maybe a limb that's immobile, maybe you had some knee surgery and whatnot, and that usually can take up to 2 weeks or 6 months. That's phase one. Phase two, stage two, is your return to activity or your rehab. So you went through that whole phase one, now you're getting ready to get into maybe a little bit of mobility exercises, a little bit of strength and conditioning, and hopefully after that you will be able to return to play. So for this purpose, the purpose of this, nutrition program will focus on stage one, and then part two will be for stage two. Okay, so let's take a look ahead. And what are the goals? So focusing on phase one for those athletes that are just coming out of an injury or have a limited mobility. The goals for nutrition are, again, to maintain energy balance. And all that means is we have a certain amount of calories that we need for our body to survive, right? For our liver, for our heart, for our kidneys to sort of function. And we need that baseline. And so on top of the baseline, we add, okay, do you have a big wound? Are you immobile? Do you have a lot of inflammation? And that inflammation causes your energy expenditure, or your body to, your body needs a little bit more energy, more calories. But the idea is to maintain the energy, not go overboard and not go underboard of your calorie intake. So again, don't starve and don't overeat. And then the most important thing will be avoiding nutrient deficiencies. So that way you support your wound healing and your inflammation as much as possible. Maximize muscle protein synthesis, right? You're going to be losing muscle. Muscle loss is going to be a norm especially when you're immobile, because it's normal for your body to lose the ability to turn over protein, meaning it gets rid of older amino acids, and we're going to talk about what amino acids are, and turns them into new ones. So that conversion of getting rid of the old amino acids, bringing new amino acids to construct muscle, that protein turnover decreases for your body. So with proper nutrition and with proper protein intake, you're going to be able to minimize that protein loss. And again, the other thing will be, you know, continuing to include foods that have high vitamins such as C, zinc, vitamin D, and calcium to support your success and through the rehab process. And then, you know, medications such as, you know, the pain relievers that you normally get will cause symptoms like constipation, and it's important to maintain a balanced, healthy diet throughout this process to help you mitigate some of those symptoms. Other symptoms could be nausea, lack of appetite, and things like that. And there's ways to, there's strategies to eat around those symptoms as well. So today, going into eating patterns, you know, this is the first sort of step into looking into, okay, how am I going to shape my nutrition? How am I going to shape my timeline of food throughout? And so it is important because it develops an eating routine. An eating routine, it's sometimes overlooked because we tend to eat all over the place, and it's something that we got to get used to eating at a certain amount of time, and within the same time frame. Let's say 2 hours. You know, from I'm going to eat breakfast from 7 to 9 on a daily basis. I'm going to eat lunch from 11 to 1. I'm going to eat dinner from 6 to 7. If you get your body used to that, your body will help you with the digestion process. You know, there are enzymes that get released even before you get food in your stomach. You know, through your other senses like smelling, your body starts, you know, producing the acids in the stomach, starts releasing some of the enzymes that are going to help break down food, and it's going to help you absorb all of the nutrients. It helps an even eating pattern or an even eating routine. It helps with controlled cravings. So if on Monday you eat breakfast from 7 to 8, and then, you know, on Wednesday you might skip breakfast and maybe you get something from 10 to 11, and vice versa, right? That's going to throw off all those hormones, all those enzymes for your digestive system. So you're going to confuse your body, and that causes cravings throughout the day. You know, at random 3 p.m., you know, you got hungry because you didn't eat around that time frame. Okay, so your body, you can actually confuse your body. So we want to maintain, you know, an eating pattern, and it's easier to hit the target goals of nutrients. Right? We're going to talk about, you know, how many carbs are we supposed to be eating, how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat, how many grams of fiber, and whatnot. And if you're eating throughout the day and even space those meals around the day, you're going to be able to hit those target goals a lot easier rather than, you know, just eating 2 big meals a day. And then portion control, it helps with, you know, portion and control food. For example, if you just eat a granola bar for breakfast, then you might be hungrier at lunch, and you might want to tend to eat a little bit more at lunch, and you might overdo it. You might overdo the portions, and then that throws off your timing. So now you go 7 or maybe 6 hours without eating, and then you eat at 9 p.m. because you ate a huge lunch. So it could throw off the portion control as well. So eating pattern is key for you guys to, again, get all of those nutrients in. So a timeline basically means, all right, what is your timeline? How do we get there? Right? How do we figure it out? Right? So there's a couple things to follow through with. It's, you know, you're eating within a 12-hour period. What does that mean? It is the optimal level in which your liver, which is, you know, the house of your metabolism in the body, you know, that is the prime time for your liver to sort of metabolize food efficiently. And we want to give the same amount of time for that liver to not work as hard. So that's how you want to space it out. So if you eat at 8 a.m., if that's your first meal, then you count 12 hours from that, right? And you shouldn't be eating. Let's say if you started at 8, you shouldn't be eating after 6 or 7. Right? Because those are 7 hours or 8. So it depends. It depends on, you can shift it forward, you can shift it back. But as long as you follow that, you know, that timeline. And eating a meal every 4 hours or so, that is a recommendation for again, making sure you get those nutrients in. And adding a snack in the longest gap of the day. So as you can see here in this timeline, you know, meal 1 will be breakfast, meal 2 will be lunch. They're probably spaced out 4 hours. Now you got maybe more than 4 hours between lunch and dinner, because we generally maybe go at 12 for lunch and then eat dinner at 7, right? So you want to add that snack in between. One, to prevent, and the distortion portions at dinner. Two, to make sure you hit your targets, right? As we're going to learn, your protein targets, and that's a good way to fill those up. And same thing after dinner. You might want to get a snack there as well if you're going to bed really, really late. And then you might be tempted to eat something sweet, or some candy, or something like that. So an eating pattern is important, and everyone is going to be different. And you should choose your eating pattern, but it is important to keep it simple. And I would say 3+1, meaning 3 meals, 1 snack. 3+2, 3 meals, 2 snacks. If your appetite is lacking, it might look a little bit different. Now you can't get a proper meal. Now you got to go, maybe 2 meals and 4 snacks, so you can get those numbers of protein that we need. Okay, so think about your eating pattern and choose what eating pattern fits best for your schedule. So this is a little bit about food groups. We're going to learn today, kind of like introduce the big 3, which is carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And it's important to get familiar with, again, what are they? Just some basic nutrition here. It's, what are the roles for each and one of these in our, recovery. So for carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram, that is the main energy source, is what all of your cells use. So that's important to include those in, throughout the day as well. You want to focus on those that have anti-inflammatory, benefits, those with fiber. Those are going to be, again, fruits, non-starchy vegetables, whole grain, or some quality starchy vegetables, like potatoes with the skin, sweet potatoes and whatnot, legumes, beans, and we're going to learn more throughout. Proteins, 4 calories per gram, the same as carbohydrates. The quality proteins is what we want to focus on. High leucine content, you're going to learn about that in a bit. Leucine is an amino acid responsible for protein synthesis. And basically, we want to keep it simple. We want to have some sort of animal products there, chicken, pork, focusing on the lean side of those, beef, 95%, eggs, turkey, same thing. And then plant-based, if you're a vegetarian or if you're a vegan, you have to make sure you include plenty of beans, legumes, and soy. Those are the best proteins as far as quality goes when it comes to plant-based. Fats, as you can see, 9 calories per gram, a little bit goes a long way. And this is the ones that we want to focus on getting the type of fat. So when we talk about type of fat, we talk about anti-inflammatory fats, omega-3s, such as fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel. And then you have the plant-based, which is flaxseed, walnuts, chia seeds. And those are the ones that we want to focus on. Okay? So those are the 3 main players when it comes to nutrition. And we want to incorporate these as much as possible, but the focus will be the quality of each one of them. So carbohydrates, breaking them down a little bit, the metabolism, it goes in the body as carbohydrates, let's say, a couple slices of bread, and then it turns into glucose. Now your body uses whatever is necessary for your cells and all those processes to be able to, feed the body. And also, the rest turns into glycogen for both muscle and liver. So we actually store carbohydrates in our body. And then what's left over, they get turned in triglycerides. So if we have too much carbohydrates, we can actually convert them into adipose tissue, meaning, fat deposits. So that's why during this stages of either, in this case, phase 1, which is, the anti-inflammation and the wound healing process, we want to incorporate, not eliminate carbohydrate completely, but we want to focus on the main types of carbohydrates and the quality carbohydrates. And we'll break those down. So you have a glycemic index rating on carbohydrates. Those that are low, they get converted to glucose at a lower rate. Those that are high, they tend to convert to glucose at a higher rate. What does this mean? So basically it means that your blood sugar in the blood, or your glucose level, increases a lot. Along with glucose, you have what's called insulin. Insulin drives glucose to the cells. And you don't want to have too much of an elevated insulin, because that causes and systemic inflammation in your body, and we don't want that. So we want to make sure we focus on carbohydrates that have a low glycemic level. It's also a lot more tempting. They're easier to eat more of. It's easier to eat crackers or sweets than it is to eat a whole grain like quinoa or even potatoes with the skin. It's a lot easier to eat those kind. So again, these foods include white bread, white rice, soda crackers, refined breakfast cereals, instant oats, baked russet potatoes, mashed potatoes, table sugar, sugary drinks. Again, there's a couple here that could be healthy, could be better, especially if you balance it out. So for example, the white rice, if you have the right portion, if you have some veggies on the side, if you have the right kind of protein, it's not bad. But again, white rice, we can overeat white rice. We can certainly overeat white rice because it has a very high glycemic level. Same thing with the baked potatoes, especially without the skin. Same thing with mashed potatoes. But we can manage those a little bit better if we combine and portion things out. Okay, so that's a quick breakdown of carbohydrates. And if we go further into it, we want to maintain a good carbohydrate intake throughout the day. Your body actually needs carbohydrates. Your brain functions at around 130 grams, 120 grams, depending on the paper research that you read. And you want to aim for 3 to 4 grams per kilogram of body weight, or 40 to 55% of your total calories would be from carbohydrates. Again, not that I want you to memorize those numbers. We would learn a little bit about what those numbers look like in your gram totals a day, but that's not the message. The message is that we want to include the good type of carbohydrates. So again, minimize the intake of these type, right? So the white rice, include more of the brown rice, the barley, the quinoa, the buckwheat, the wheat berries. Same thing with the white pasta, white bread. Substitute that for whole grain pasta or whole grain couscous, whole grain bread. Same thing for cakes, cookies, pies, and all those. Substitute that for fruit, sugary flavored cereals, oatmeal, muesli, yogurts with added sugar. Add your own fruit to the yogurt. Sugar sweetened beverages. Again, substitute that with water, low-fat milk, fried potatoes. Small baked potatoes with the skin will be a lot more quality there in the carbohydrate. And ice cream, you can try some pureed banana with cacao powder or some yogurt ice cream. So there's ways to substitute these. And it's important as your activity level has decreased and you're focusing on recovery and getting out there again to top shape, it's important to really pay attention to the type of carbohydrates that you're eating, not necessarily, eliminating them from the diet. Okay. So a little bit about proteins. They represent probably the most important, out of all the nutrients. This is the one that you really want to hammer down. And basically proteins are amino acids. There's 22 of them. Amino acids are the building blocks of each protein structure. And each of those amino acids play a huge role. Some of them, combined, they work on the structure, function, regulations of different, organs by building hormones, building enzymes that even help you digest food. So proteins are everywhere. It's not just for muscle, but in your case of, protein intake, we have, you will have higher demands of protein because you're going through, wound healing. Your body's under inflammation, so your body's under a small stress. So you want to make sure you incorporate more protein in the diet. And there's one amino acid that is called leucine, and leucine is the one that maximizes protein synthesis. And there are foods that have higher leucines than others. So the goal is to get enough protein throughout the day to minimize muscle atrophy. So again, without if you have a limb that's immobile, that limb will lose naturally, no matter what you do, we will lose a little bit of muscle tone. But again, we want to minimize that we want to minimize that as much as possible, so that when we're ready to get some activity, we now have, again, we haven't lost all of the muscle. We at least, maintain some of that structure. Okay. So 9 of the 22 are essential, meaning that you need to get them from food. And again, those are the ones that are included in those 9, and leucine is, the leader in protein synthesis. That's the one that we want to make sure we have, throughout the day. And then the non-essential ones, your body just makes it, in the liver, and your body uses, other amino acids to construct the rest. But again, the idea here is to focus on the quality of protein and hit those numbers. So complete proteins and diversity of amino acids. So basically means, we have complete on the left side. So the complete protein means that it will have all of the 9 essential amino acids. The incomplete, like in the plant-based proteins, you're missing a couple. But if you combine them throughout the day, you're able to get all of those amino acids. So for example, legumes plus seeds plus nuts plus whole grains in one day, not just, eating, beans 3 times a day. You want to make sure you get a variety of plant-based proteins. For a complete protein, all of the animal proteins will have the 9 essential amino acids, and they will be a lot higher in leucine than plant-based. So again, those include eggs, pork, tuna, and chicken. But the goal is to diversify different proteins. And if you're on the animal side, don't just eat chicken, throughout the day. Try to vary it. Try to add some plants in there as well, because they have a lot of other nutrients too. And if you're completely vegan, then you might need to, besides combining all of the, types of plant-based proteins, you might need to, get on a amino acid supplement, just to make sure that you get the amount of leucine that you need throughout the day. So again, diversifying is more important than just focusing on one type of protein. So consistency is key. A lot of researchers prove that if you have a consistent intake throughout the day, that improves your protein synthesis a lot. So it's important to include protein for breakfast, protein for lunch, protein for dinner, and then there's some protein for some snacks. If you're struggling to eat, like, chicken or beef or pork, or you're not getting a lot of the plant-based proteins is there as well, you might consider a whey protein product, like a supplement, just to fill the gap. So some numbers here to run by you guys is that, you want to aim for at least 20 to 35, 40 grams of protein per meal and snack as you eat. And then you have, for those that have a higher wound healing process, maybe a knee surgery or an immobile limb, you need a lot more protein per kilogram of body weight. So you need anywhere from 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Someone that's has a minor tear, muscle tear, but is mobile, you then need just a little bit less, right? 1.2 to 1.4 grams. And I'll help you figure out what that means, both in numbers and also using different methods as well. So again, those numbers are important. They are vital for you guys to try to achieve on a daily basis. And again, it's a range because they're not supposed to be exact, but those numbers have been proven to promote the highest amount of protein synthesis in injured athletes and mitigate the protein loss as you rehab. Okay. So fats, again, a lot of athletes are, sometimes, they're afraid of fat. They're afraid of eating certain types of plant-based fats, like nuts, seeds, and avocados and whatnot. And so the focus is to eat focusing on the types of fat, right? So we want to, yes, eliminate as much of the unhealthy fats, because we know that it has 9 calories per gram. So a little bit really throws off your calorie intake, and you can consume a lot of calories through fats without even realizing it from, you know, consuming like a cheesy salad dressing. So again, we gotta be careful with the type of fat, but the focus is to include the unsaturated because they have a lot of benefits. And those benefits are going to be, one, you know, we need fats for our body. Every cell has a structure of fat around it. So we need to eat fat. You know, we need to eat fat to produce hormones, and we need to eat fat to, you know, help with the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, K, and E. So again, we want to focus on the types of fat. We need fat, but we can also overdo it if we're eating a lot of fried stuff. So if we look at, you know, saturated fats, unsaturated fats. Saturated fats are the ones that we want to minimize. Those are the ones that we get a lot of. They have been proven to increase systematic inflammation in your joints as well. So we want to, you know, lower those as much as possible. Unsaturated fats like plant-based nuts, seeds, avocados, and olives, those are the ones that we want to make sure we add throughout the day to, again, help with, you know, the anti-inflammation and the absorption of vitamins as we know it. You can also, if you eat a lot of fried foods, even though fried foods are being fried in vegetable oil, the vegetable oil, because it breaks down as you fry things, it's also pro-inflammatory. So you have to be careful, right? Oh, I might be using avocado oil, but if it has been fried, there's no benefit to the avocado oil then. So if you use oil, make sure you're sauteing, you're maybe baking, where it's at a lower temperature, and then try to eat it raw as much as possible. But include the healthy fats instead of the saturated fats. Try to limit the saturated fats as much as possible, and try to limit fried foods as much as possible. So again, healthy fat components throughout the day. Do I have a healthy fat component at breakfast? You know, maybe eggs. Eggs have omega-3s that have healthy fats. Maybe some avocado, maybe some nuts and seeds, right? Same thing for lunch. Same thing for dinner, and then snacks too. So again, you know, focus on the big five: the nuts, the seeds, the fish, the avocado, the olive oil, raw in salads or veggies. And again, you know, to maximize the nutrient absorption in every meal. And for snacks, prioritize, you know, a handful of nuts over sweets, right? Sweets, of course, are going to taste a lot better. But, you know, think about the benefits that you're adding to your body as far as recovery goes. So we want to make sure that we're getting the highest amount of nutrients, you know, throughout the day. So again, the goal is to get at least 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, you know, on a daily basis. And you don't have to account for this, but if you include those healthy fats and you eliminate those unhealthy ones, you will definitely hit that target zone. So summary: alcohol is the one thing that you really want to avoid during any of the phases, especially phase 1, where you're coming out of your injury, because it really impairs muscle synthesis and wound healing. Avoid skipping meals or food groups, right? Try to include all of those, you know, foods, carbs, protein, and fat, but start thinking about the quantity of those, or not quantities and quality. Aim for a well-balanced diet, consistent eating pattern throughout the day. All right, think about, you know, the effects of, you know, your cravings throughout the day. It throws off all of those processes. Eating within the 12-hour frame, right? And not going 4 hours plus without eating. Try to get a snack in there to fill the gap. Focus on good carbs. Get your protein intake 2 to 2.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. And carbs such as, you know, whole grain, starch, vegetables, fruits, and veggies, and the healthy fats. Focus on those and don't eliminate all the fats completely. All right. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.